Always there was the rock. Before time, before Genesis, before the pyramids or the founding of Rome, before the birth of Jesus, the rock was there. Shrine of the Coast, the Chumash Indians called it. In the shadow of the rock, on the edge of the continent, the village was born.
My father worked on the project during the war. He was the cable splicer for all the machinery and equipment while they were building the breakwaters. And he worked there for several years. Morro Rock's always been a part of our life, you know. He did that, and from that he would haul the stone home every night, build our home out of that. Can't do it anymore. Can't even take a pebble from it. It was a small, very small town, and it was during the Depression, so everyone was poor. There were about 500 people here. And everyone knew everyone. Everyone looked out for everyone, you know. But it was just a small town. It seemed like we had more to do then than they do now. There was a place called the Creamery, you know, ice cream, hamburgers, and we hung out a lot there. We went to the movies. The Morro Bay Theater's been there since 1941. I mean, everybody in town went there on Friday night, you know. The first film was Call of the Wild that they showed in Morro Bay, and everyone in town was able to get into the movie theater. My dad used to take his own candy to the movies, and the woman who ran the theater knew he would take his own candy. He said, "I'm not buying my candy from you when I can get it for a penny less at the grocery store." She charged 6 cents and he'd get it for a nickel. But everyone went to the movies on Friday night.
Episcopalians said their prayers in a variety of locations. Baptisms were administered in the Cotter House. Eucharist was celebrated in the old school. When meeting in the Amvet Hall, slot machines were covered during the service. In 1948, the diocese purchased 3 parcels of land in Morro Bay. A relocated Army chapel became St. Peter's first home.
It was an Army building, Army church, and so a friend of mine, we said, let's go to church over in that new church and see what's going on. And I liked the service so much and all. I said, I think I'm going to investigate this. I think I would like to join this church. You know, just the whole service I liked. I just liked how it was conducted and all. I enjoyed it very much. Well, if you see some of these high sloping roof, all the Army buildings, the church buildings were built like that, with a tower for the bell to be hung in. There was a front entrance and then kind of like a social hall in the front part of the church, and the main part of the church was where the service was held. They were really folding doors, but we never unfolded them. They were never folded, because we used it for just, that was our social hall on one side, and the other side was the church for us. That was how it was made, so we just used it that way.
And I saw the people coming out of the then Episcopal Church, which was above the building at the corner of Monterey and Morro Bay Boulevard. And they would come out there, and I'd see this man with a clerical collar on, and I thought, woohoo, this is scary. Got some big-time spooky religion guy there. And then the same guy showed up at a scout meeting and became the assistant scoutmaster, and then he said, Well, let's see. Scout Sunday is today. We will, how about having Scout Sunday at the New Episcopal Church, which was then the new building here on this place, with the old chapel that came from Camp Roberts. And I saw the ceremony, and I saw the whole thing about the Episcopal Church, and suddenly I was an Episcopalian and no longer a Presbyterian. Well, the vicar, Father Hodgkin, when I started going to the church, the friends that I had started coming too. So we all of a sudden were a small youth group. And so he said, well, why don't we have a youth group? We'll have the Young People's Fellowship. We'll meet on Wednesdays. He would say, what would you like to do? And I bought a book on tumbling. I said, I'd like to learn how to tumble. And he got a hold of some tumbling mats somewhere. And the way the church was laid out was the worship space was in the rear part of the building, and there's a partition, and the parish hall was in the front part. And we would open up the doors between the parish hall and the worship space and do our tumbling runs and put the mats there and then run and do our tricks on the mat. We had 5 or 6 people. We were all in the choir. The choir consisted of us. The organist was another of our members. So we dominated the front of the church when it was Sunday. But he did so much because he got the youth group going, and I personally felt like he was my own counselor. I mean, he spent hours with me. I don't know how he could have done anything else sometimes, but he did. I had hours of that man's time.
Tragedy visited St. Peter's. The cherished old building was destroyed by a nighttime fire.
February 2nd, 1961. My dear Mr. Lesser, I was among the first ones to witness the disaster last evening. It was quite an explosion only moments before the fire alert sounded. My wife and I wish to convey our regrets. Cordially, a neighbor.
My first Sunday at St. Peter's was All Saints' Day in 1962. The buildings that we have now had just been built. They were, I think, dedicated just perhaps within the month or two prior to our arrival. So here we were with new buildings, a church building and a social hall, and it was all very exciting from that standpoint.
We Came here about 76, 77, when our children were just little, tiny, small fry. And they were so welcomed in St. Peter's. They really found themselves a lot of good pretend grandparents there. They were very comfortable there. And so we stayed. We found some really inspiring old-time Episcopalians among the people at St. Peter's, some who are gone, but who had long histories of service to the Episcopal Church. People that are inspiring to think back on, that we've seen in every aspect of the Church's activities, that we really loved and really think about very fondly.
As a cradle Episcopalian, I love the liturgy of the Episcopal Church. And I find at St. Peter's very similar in every respect to what I found as a child in St. Mark's in Massachusetts.
I was for a number of years involved in city government, and at the beginning of each city council meeting, we would have a different member of the local clergy come and offer an invocation. And I found myself over the months really looking forward to when Charlie Erickson would come, the Episcopal priest that was here at St. Peter's. And for a long time, my wife and I had been looking for a church home. We had gone to Unitarian very briefly in Los Angeles, and we'd sort of looked around in this area. And I come from a Roman Catholic background, and she comes from a Presbyterian background. And so we were trying to find something that would sort of encompass us both. And after I'd heard Charlie for a couple of times, I thought, you know, I'd like to hear more what this person says. So one Sunday we wandered in, and we were warmly welcomed, and we never left. So that was almost about 20 years ago now. One of the great saving strengths of this particular denomination is the fact that it can tolerate a wide variety in approaches, and I have enjoyed them all.
One thing I really liked about it is that I can dress the way I'm dressed right now and stuff. I can walk into church like that, or dressed oddly, and I don't get a bunch of people running up and wanting to burn me at a stake or anything. My favorite part is Romans chapter 2, verses 1 through 12, which is a part that basically it says, it's the whole judge not lest ye be judge yourself type deal. It says a bunch about how if you judge another, you're as guilty of the sin as they are, and that the Christian will get their reward first, but then everyone else is going to get it right after them. So you don't really want to go around and judge people just because they may have different beliefs than you. I've been an acolyte, a lector, and a vestry member at St. Peter's. I think the age is 16 that you have to be on a vestry. Oh yeah, I got the same respect that the other people did.
It does make a difference when you bring your child up, even at an early age, in a church, and part of it's just the community of the church.
Well, I see the congregation definitely rallying around him and becoming part of the village, raising him spiritually and socially, just in the lessons that he learns.
He loves church. It's a place of nurturing, and it's a place